Good afternoon, everybody. For those few of you that don't know, I'm Jennifer. I'm Terry and Janet's daughter, and Mum and I would like to thank you for joining us here to commemorate Dad. He was Terry to many, but to us he was a husband, father, a granddad, a brother, an uncle, a cousin, and a good friend. Terence Edwin Westaway was the first of 8 children born in Newton Abbot, a proud Devonian man and boy. And he was chuffed to bits that one of the HCAs recently in Torbay Hospital that was treating him was a Buckland boy just like him. He stayed close to all 7 of his siblings and joined many happy occasions as part of that close-knit family. He married Janet, and together they had 3 children of their own, and the greatest obviously being me. And they built a life together here in Torquay. Sadly, my brothers Andrew and Stuart are no longer with us today, but it's fitting that we think of them as we remember Dad and say goodbye. I'd like to think of them fishing around the harbour together like the good old days. And although his journey has ended, the love and memories we share will remain part of us. As long as hearts remember, as long as hearts still care, we do not part with those we love, we carry them everywhere. I'd like to start the celebration with a farewell to Dad from me and Mum. Born to Ted and Sylvia in 1944, he was not a boomer like the rest of you and Mum, but one of the silent generation. And that's quite an irony, because he had noise and made noise around him right up until the end. And Sam and I know all the jingles to Boom Radio, as we had to listen to the top 100 songs of all time during his last stay in Torbay Hospital. His battery consumption was enormous for his little radio, but he loved prog rock and loved listening to music. Dad grew up in Newton Abbot and was joined by a steady flow of wonderful brothers and sisters, 7 in total, who were right with him right to the end. Stan, Bill, Alan, John, Jackie and Sylvie, along with their better halves, Wendy, Sheila, Margaret, Kim, Glenn and Shane, and not forgetting Rose and Stuart, who are no longer with us. No brother could have wanted a better bunch. Mum and I can't thank them enough for their love and support in the recent months, and to John for coming over to Canada to see him before he passed. Dad did a short stint in the Navy along with other jobs over the years, but fishing was his main passion. He loved it both professionally and for fun. He'll be much missed around the harbour by all that knew him. And when Sam and I were cleaning the boat to sell it, we were told by many to wish him well and that he knew all the best fishy spots. Since passing away, there have been many messages. I'll read just a few that have come through. A. Birchall, he was sorry to hear the sad news, and Terry was a lovely man and he'll miss him. Paul Mortimer said, I'm sorry to hear this. I've known your dad for over 30 years through his commercial fishing, and I used to see him every night when he landed his fish with Andrew. He was such a lovely man and always had plenty of time for everybody. Rest easy, Booley, my old mate. Liam Cosgrove wrote, very sad news. Rest in peace, Terry, you'll be missed. One of his cousins, Maria Lindsay, said, Jen, sorry to hear about cousin Terry, rest in peace. And Rob Adams said he had lots of fond memories spending time with Terry and he hopes he's resting in peace. But most of all, everybody was very sad to hear the passing of Booley, as he was affectionately called, and they hope that he's resting peacefully. But we all know who the greatest catch of Dad's life was, and that was my mum, Janet. An amazing, stoic and strong, lovely lady, and she was by his side right till his last breath. Mum, you've been amazing. Sadly, my own wonderful brothers, Andrew and Stuart, are no longer with us. But we were lucky to still have Kathy and Mandy still in our lives since their passing, plus my own better half Dave, who is all too often away at sea. Being a granddad was a role that Dad did best. Charlotte, Sam, Kate and Aston will miss having him in their lives, giving hugs and struggle cuddles, but they'll have many wonderful memories to look back on: holidays, playing cards, fishing and many, many lifts in his beloved I-10. Dad was very quick to ask for a favour and boss his minions about, normally his younger brothers and sisters, but he was twice as quick to help others that needed one in return. One example of Dad doing Mum a favour was the time he started the sitting room wallpapering without checking with Mum first. And this was a lesson that Dad never learned, was to check with Mum first. He grafted away, and when Mum returned for the big reveal, it turned out he'd put the wallpaper upside down, and it stayed that way for about 25 years. All the time that Mum had painted the kitchen ceiling, and I remember it very well, and Dad had got a load of squid and cooked it up, and it squirted squid ink all over the kitchen ceiling. And it took years to cover up the oil that kept on leaching through the paint. But all jokes aside, Dad thought nothing of driving to London to help me and my flatmate Debbie move back. He drove from Torquay and back via London and Ipswich. Now that was one long road trip, and he was glad to help. Mum and Dad looked after Scooby for Dave and I when he couldn't come to Australia when we emigrated. And he took him on walks, gave him loads of treats and cuddles, and looked after him lovingly for 3 months. And when finally the time came that the chief vet in Australia said that he could come and stay with us, Mum and Dad took him to the animal exporter to take him out to Australia, and Dad was gutted because he never looked back once. And we won't mention the time that our other dog Herbie ate all of Dad's fishing receipts when he was babysitting him once. Dad wanted to live forever, and he gave it a really good try, but I'm glad he's no longer suffering, and I'm sure you all feel the same. And when I was at one of Dad's many appointments last year, one of the doctors was asking Dad about a do not resuscitate order and was explaining the process. This was due to his many ailments, and Dad carefully explained that he'd had a new piece of metal cleaning equipment come through in the post this morning, and that he hadn't tried it yet, and that he wanted the doctor to do whatever was necessary to keep him alive, because he had no plan on dying until he'd used it. And after some persuasion, Mum and I were very glad that we talked him out of giving his body to medical research. He was a bit of a hoarder, and Sam has hidden half the reels from Mum so that she didn't have a fit. And we're looking forward to some good eBaying sessions over the summer. And if anybody here needs a fishing reel, just come and ask, because we've got a few. And don't mention to Sam postage stamps. She's got a few of those as well. Don't be sad today. Dad has had a great life and a great family, and he's finally back fishing with his boys. So I would like to ask my husband Dave to come up to read a short poem chosen by Charlotte on behalf of herself, Sam, Caitlin and Aston.
Afterglow. We'd like the memory of him to be a happy one. He'd like to leave an afterglow of smiles now life is done. He'd like to leave an echo whispering softly down the ways of happy times and laughing times and bright and sunny days. He'd like the tears of those who grieve to dry before the sun of happy memories he leaves now that life is done. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Next, I'd like to ask my wonderful cousin, Kate Westaway, to speak on behalf of Dad's brothers and sisters and any other tributes that she's had.
On behalf of all the siblings, here are some words and memories from my dad, Bill Westaway. In the 1950s, Terry, Stan, me and Roseanne first lived at 58 Osborne Street, Newton Abbot, right opposite the power station, where my father worked. I have very fond memories of this time and area. We were lucky because there was a park in front of our house. We went to All Saints Primary just up the road, and our grandparents lived in the same street. It was always good having an older brother, someone to look out for you at school. There were lots of happy times. For the Queen's coronation in 1953, our mother dressed the four of us up in fancy dress as Fijians, wearing grass skirts, and covered us all in brown boot polish. We looked great, but we didn't win the fancy dress show, and the boot polish would not scrub off. In fact, we had to go to school looking very dirty all the following week. We did have some hairy times when we lived in Osborne Street. When there was a big spring tide, the River Tean would flood the park. It was Terry's job to put the sandbags up at the front door, and we would carry all the valuable things upstairs. However, often the sandbags weren't enough. The water could get as high as the windows and would flood it through the front and out the back door. Terry was mischievous as a boy. We used to go to Sunday school every Sunday afternoon, but one week Terry said, "It's a lovely day, let's miss Sunday school and go down the river instead. Nobody will find out." Terry had forgotten our Auntie Jean was actually the Sunday school teacher, and indeed somebody did find out. Well, we all had a good hiding when we got home, so we didn't miss any more Sunday schools in the foreseeable future. Another time we were playing cowboys and Indians down Brunel Road. There was nothing there then, no trading estate, just small trees and bushes. Well, Terry lit a small Indian fire and it took off. It burned all the bushes and the small trees down. Before long, fire engines were everywhere. We scarpered just in time and claimed we never knew who did it. Times changed when we moved to Key Road and in with Gran Westaway, after the council knocked down our house to build a car park. And then on to Oaklands Road in Buckland, where new brothers and sisters, Alan, John, Jackie and Sylvie, came into the world. Terry worked for a fishmonger while he was at school. He loved filleting all different fish. He especially loved his fishing down the River Tean under the railway bridge because the warm water from the power station brought sea bass up the river after the prawns. Following his love of the sea and in the family footsteps, Terry joined the Royal Navy. He loved a big family gathering, especially when everyone could join in with lots of games. He always gave us lots of fish, and he'll be up there fishing for the big fish in the sky and telling his stories. That was going to be the end, but our sister Sylvie reminded me about a time when she lived in France. Me and Terry decided to go and visit her by ferry. We were playing cards on the ferry, as you would with Terry, and about halfway across the channel, I said, "Let's go and change some money." And he said, "No need to do it yet, we've got loads of time." As the ferry was docking, we had to finish the game. We got up to go and change some money. We walked over to the purser and he said, "Oh, sorry, it's closed." I said to Terry, "We have no money." He said, "Oh, it'll be all right, we can change it in a cafe when we get off." So we drove off the ferry without any euros. We went to the nearest cafe and ordered 2 coffees and said, "Do you take English pounds?" And they said, "No." So we didn't have a coffee. Lucky enough, we found an ATM in the street and managed to get some money out. So we had our coffee and then started to drive to Sylvie's. By now it was starting to get dark and I said to Terry, "Have you got the map and the directions?" He said, "Yes, I wrote them on my hand." When he tried to show me the directions, it was all smudged because of playing cards for 6 hours on the ferry. So we had no directions, we just knew the name of her village and that it was off the main road on the way to Nice. We stopped at a services to ring Sylvie to see where we were, and she said, "You've gone 50 miles too far." I was hopping mad and said to Sylvie, "Can you come and find us, or I'll just drive straight back to the ferry." So we met her at a junction on the way, and all was fine. On the return journey back, we went to Brest to visit the big supermarket. In the car park, we needed a trolley. Terry saw a woman pushing an empty trolley, so he shouted at her and waved his arms around. She saw him coming towards her, panicked and just pushed the trolley at him, terrified of the English lunatic, and ran off. We all loved our brother Terry. He was always there for us, and we will all miss him so much. We love you, Ter. Here are some words from Terry's brother John, who lives in Canada. Me and Terry were working away painting houses. And after supper one night, he asked me to come into his room and listen to his music. He started off by putting on Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd, so not a bad start. But then he put on the prog rock band Yes, followed by Uriah Heep, and then more and more headbangers. So I thought I knew where this was going, and then out of the blue he put on Frank Sinatra and told me, if you ever want to write a love letter, use the lyrics from a Frank Sinatra record. So Jan, if you didn't already know this, his inspiration for the love letters he wrote you were from the old song Old Blue Eyes. Goodbye, brother. Have a nice journey and a wonderful reunion with the rest of your family. Thinking of you and lots of love.
Thank you, Kate. Finally, before we have the committal, Mum would like to say to everybody a big thank you for all the wonderful cards and kind messages that she received over the last few weeks. We're having a little drop collection for Rowcroft, so anybody that wants to drop a coin in, feel free to. I leave with these final words. Life can never stay the same, no matter how we try. Our hands can never stop the clock of life from ticking by. But love remains unchanging in the care of sorrowing hearts. For as the love of life is stilled, the love of memory starts. Rest in peace, Dad.